I think, don't touch recorder. I think I'm the resident hick of the panel. I only have an undergraduate degree that I got from BYU back in 1997. The month that the Rodin sculptures were banned. I don't know if any of you guys remember that. I was part of the protest, and then there was the protest that was protesting the protest. And that was the beginning of the end for me, you could say, in terms of my religious faith. But I blog at a place called Dooce.com, and I started it back in 2001, just as a place to talk about pop culture and music, and I was dating soap stars, and I knew how to make a web page, and I thought, I want to make my own online space. So let's see, I sent out an email to about 34 of my friends and said, hey guys, I know you guys all live across the country, come see me in my blog. And this is in 2001, when if you told someone you had a blog, they thought you meant you had a venereal disease. And I would always say yes, and it hurts, and it's contagious. Within a year, I had sort of switched jobs and worked at a software company, and hated my job. And my boss was this typical Hollywood, how do I say this? She would come into the office, and you could see where she had injected Botox into her lips, and you could see the prick marks, and she begged to be written about, and she would order Prada purses online and talk about it out loud, and drop names about who she knew in the industry, and she was related to so-and-so. And I thought it would be fun to make fun of her and make fun of a lot of the other people that I worked with, and I was really naive at the time, thinking, oh, no one's going to find this. This is a blog. No one reads blogs. And then an anonymous person sent an email to every vice president of the company, and within a few minutes, you could hear some cackling going on in all the offices. And one of the guys came out and said, dude, you were right on about her. Dude. And then she found it. And that was one of the most harrowing days of my life, sort of being confronted with humiliating a person in public and having her sit across from me and going, why would you do this to me? And they fired me immediately. I was fired. I was walked to my car with a cardboard box full of everything and told to leave and never come back. And it was one of the first times that this had happened to anybody online, losing your job or getting in trouble because of something you'd written on your website. And here I was faced with what I had become as a human being. I mean, here I had humiliated someone, lost my job because of it, and I just didn't know who I was, and what did this say about me? And I had grown up being I was Laurel president. I had perfect attendance at early morning seminary in Memphis, Tennessee. I was a valedictorian. I graduated BYU with honors. And here I was fired for something stupid thing I had written on my website. So I took it down for 6 months because I didn't want to have a midlife crisis for the world to see online. In that 6 months, I met John, and oddly, we sort of bonded. I don't even know if I can talk about this here. We sort of bonded because he sent me the link to exmormons.org. And we sort of shared an experience of being disillusioned with our faith and what it meant and how we were brought up and where we wanted to go. Now, this whole time, my parents had known about my website and whatnot, and I believe it was 2 days after September 11th. After, September 11th was hard for everyone. It was a big identity crisis for everyone, and I sat down at my computer, had a couple martinis, and then wrote this horrible, horrible diatribe about how Mormons were no better than fundamentalist Islamists. Which I'm not proud of it. It was horrible, and my parents found my website that day. Now, I think that they had an idea that maybe I wasn't going to church anymore, but then all of a sudden they were confronted with page after page after page of me talking about having sex with strangers and getting drunk and being hungover at work, and how I thought that Mormons were going to blow up buildings. My family certain members of my family didn't speak to me for several months, and I had another personal crisis. Holy hell, how long does it take me to learn my lesson? There are certain things you can say, publicly, and there's certain things you shouldn't say publicly. Since then, my boundaries have gotten, much, much bigger, and I'm very, very careful about what I write on my website. And interestingly, my family, we've moved back to Utah, I've had a child, my family and I are closer because of my website. And I think my mom routinely gives talks at church about how to remain friends with the child that has gone astray. And they all go, I think I know who your daughter is. But they have come to accept, and I have come to accept, I let them be who they are, they let me be who I am. And I think that my blog of anything, this little venereal disease blog, has brought my family through something that could have potentially torn us apart for the rest of our lives. And when I tell anybody that wants to start a website, what I say to them is always go into it wanting people to be excited to see themselves on in what you're writing. And I never want someone to be disappointed that I said something about them. I want them to go, oh, she wrote about me today. That is the main boundary that I go into this with. My husband is basically the person who taught me all of this. I mean, I've learned this through the experience, but knowing that he's the one that's going to be reading it, he's a part of my life. I write about my life every day. And for me, it's been this huge 8.5-year journey. And it now supports my family, and we do this for a living. And I actually love the size of this audience. It's really intimate. Last week, I spoke to an audience of about 1,500 women who wanted to slice my neck off. And this is just a really refreshing change. But that's my story. Thank you.